When today's topic came up, being a compliance auditor, the whole non-compliance issue has been I think a bit of confusion in the market with regards to, and we get this question all the time, is how can we issue out a COC, but at the same time there's non-compliances? And I just hope that today's presentation will be able to get more clarity for you guys. Just starting off, in the standards in 10254, 10106, and 1352, it states there that all non-compliances, obviously pre-existing non-compliances, must be denoted to the client in writing. I've put the references up on the screen. So, and that's 13. So 10254 was the first one, 10106 was the second one, and then this is where you'll find them in 1352. Okay, so we get this question, and we get calls from a lot of the plumbers just trying to understand, and from insurance companies and clients also trying to understand, why am I issued a non-compliance notice? The certificate of compliance certifies that the work that you did as the licensed plumber is correct. But this excludes any pre-existing items of non-compliance. So you've arrived at Mrs. Jones' house, you've come to replace the geyser, and there's certain items that are non-compliant. Those were pre-existing when you arrived, they were already there. This was something that she was living with before her geyser, she had these items already pre-existing, and you're only denoting those items. And this way, when you denote these non-compliances, you are trying to make sure that you, the licensed plumber, are protecting yourself. Because if you don't inform her about what's wrong in her roof or wherever else where her geyser is situated, then you're the one who's liable and you're the one at fault. And the Consumer Protection Act states that the client must be fully aware. It's the same thing as when you go service your car. The mechanic has to let you know that your brake pads are finished, what certain items have to be replaced. They've got to inform you about that. And now what happens that when you've done a proper non-compliance, you then hand over that responsibility to the homeowner. And especially you have to have explained it to him or her and let them know in plain English that this is what's going on, this is what the problem is. And a lot of the times, we think that this is a simple process, but majority of our audit failures come from the lack of a non-compliance or the lack of a detailed non-compliance. And I found that in my own audits, I've got plumbers asking me, but why don't I just go and fix it? But are you getting paid to go fix that? You're not getting paid to go fix that. So if it is like majority of the ones that I find are that the pipe's not secured in the roof. And obviously a meter around the geyser, that's your responsibility, but everywhere else, that is the client's responsibility. And what had happened was that just put it in real terms. What had happened was that in our region, border region, there was a lady who had a geyser replaced and she had a leak. And it leaked for a week, and she called the plumber in, and the plumber fixed however he fixed it, but she hadn't received a copy of her COC in that week. And fixed whatever he fixed, and then 2 hours later the whole house was flooded. And because he hadn't informed her that there's polycop in a hot water reticulation and the cold water reticulation, he was held liable and he had to pay 150,000 rand worth of damages for the client's house. So at the end of the day, you not issuing the COC and the non-compliance notice results in further cost to you, the licensed plumber. Steve, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, Lorraine, I think you're covering it quite nicely. Good morning, everyone. I think, again, I've had 3 calls this week, exactly the same type of thing that we're talking about this morning. So the non-compliance notice is there to protect you. As the standards say, if you're doing installation, make sure that you denote the non-compliances that were pre-existing. You do it in the correct format. When the compliance auditor, if it does come up for an audit, he's got all of the information and it's been explained to the client in real terms as to what those risks are. They then make that informed decision. And again, it covers you for insurance replacements, for example, where they're not paying for betterment and they're putting the client back in the same position. So the attention to detail in terms of the non-compliance notice is critical for you. As again, this week I've had 3 calls, just trying to explain how, it says compliance notice and then you're giving non-compliance. So we just need to make sure that we do it correctly in the correct format, and it protects you. And again, in many cases, it could possibly, add to your bottom line, as the client is now fully aware of the non-compliances, the risks. And there's a chance that they'll say, well, look, we don't have the money for it now, but we can certainly do it towards the end of the month, or give us a price and go from there. But I think it's just the way in which we act and how we come across as being professional, and just making the clients aware of those particular items of non-compliance. Back to you, Lorraine.
Thanks, Steve. Um, and at the end of the day, we want to make sure that liability is it goes to the correct person, and that is the homeowner. That's not your home. You just merely coming to do a service, and that is where we talk about here replacements. So we're not discussing any of the new installations. We're talking about replacements here. So we're talking about you get a call out that whatever, her geezer's burst, as they say, and now you find yourself in a situation where if everything is non-compliant, let the client know, because at the end of the day, it makes you look like a professional. It's like I usually tell the guys that I audit, the first thing you should do when you get into a roof, fully audit your surroundings, have a look at what is non-compliant before you even start. So that you start out, you've already detailed all the non-compliances, and that you have the conversation with the client, because she must just say to you, just sort everything out. And at the end of the day, that also helps your bottom line. And also really it limits the recourse of a negative audit, because the majority of the audits and failures are due to the fact that there's not a detailed non-compliance, or there is no non-compliance to start with. And that's where the risk comes in to you as a licensed
But I
plumber.
think also, Lorraine, if you look at the non-compliance notice, and again, as you've just put up on the screen here now, it denotes those items that are environmental, that could be warranty issues, or, critical safety items. Now, there shouldn't be too many of those. But, it really protects you. Excuse me. So in terms of, let's say, no lagging, for example, yes, it's a geyser. It should have the R1 lagging, but it's an existing property. It would be deemed as betterment. It might be a good thing to have, and that challenge always goes back. Well, you're doing your meter around the geyser. What of the balance of the piping? But it's just to bring the attention to the homeowner that and it shows on the COC those type of things are environmental or possible warranty items, which then educates the consumer to make that decision. So if we do it correctly, and around for a while, obviously we're working on a new one, but the key thing is that it answers all the questions, and it protects you. So even if you do your own one, and we have seen it in the past, Lorraine, where plumbers have really done a really good job trying to put their own ones together, but there may be 1 or 2 items that they don't bring into their COC, which again, when the auditor does his audit, those
Mm-hmm.
items are left off the table and then brought to his attention there. So, again, just protect yourselves. That's all.
I know we've spoken about the IOPSA non-compliance notice that was created on many occasions, but we just want to reiterate the importance of this one, because as Steve has said, this one is quite detailed. It details everything. We are working on another revision of it, but at this moment in time, this is the non-compliance notice for 10254. So and I find that when guys start using this one, they are much more thorough. The client understands that, as you can see, it denotes what is critical safety, what is warranty, and what is eco. And the client then really makes an informed decision. You download it free, buy it once for 50 Rand, and you can make as many copies as you want, up until obviously there's a new version. But at this moment in time, this is the most detailed one that we have. And I would encourage the licensed plumbers out there to get themselves a copy of the IOPSA non-compliance notice. I know we kind of breezed
Lorraine,
through this.
I
Yeah.
think Lorraine, also, if you go back to a couple of the online meetings that we've had, where Gerry and myself and yourself, and we've done some online meetings, and we've asked that question. And we had some polls around that, which was, how many of you, plumbers in attendance utilize the non-compliance notice? And I think we were down to about 30% of the individuals or the plumbers were using it, which again was an issue. Obviously, the other one that came up was, in terms of writing your own ones, and it goes back to what the standards require. And I've always said, and it's been agreed that if you don't know the standards, how can you report on them? So how can you, if you don't have a guideline document like we have here, or a very detailed one, in terms of filling out your non-compliance notice, if you don't know those standards, you stand the risk of leaving out quite a few items. So as an example, yesterday I had Craig, and I hope he's in the room this morning, but Craig phoned me yesterday just basically stating that, these items like, is the system balanced, and the lagging, and, electrical, etc., in terms of denoting that, if it was there before, and the cost, to rectify is extreme. Again, I'm saying go back and use the document. That document was created exactly for that. Now, if you're doing a new build, for example, that's a totally different story. But we're talking this morning about replacement units or replacement geysers, and this is where it would cover you emphatically. I also had, a couple of weeks ago, I had a company phone me saying that they've turned down geyser work because the clients couldn't bring it up to full compliance, and they would rather not do the work than fall foul of an audit. Now, again, in my discussion with them on that day was exactly what we're talking about now. Yes, we would all love for every single geyser that we looked at and did that could be brought fully up to compliance. We'd all be buying Mercedes tomorrow because there would be a huge amount of work. But we are restricted in terms of what the insurance companies cover in terms of their policy, B, in terms of what the financial position of the client is. And then you obviously have that, but it's been like that for 10 years, so why should we change it now? So all of those things do come into play. And I think for the purpose of protecting yourself, going back to a detailed non-compliance notice, and being very aware of your surroundings, like Lorraine was saying, with pipes not supported, or nails supporting the pipe, or whatever the case may be, polycop on the TP that shouldn't be there. Just bring all of those things up and cover yourself, and make sure that the client is aware. And I think if we do that, then the risks in terms of either having to go back to the client to advise them of it, or having to rectify it, you mitigate those 100%. And I think today's one, and Lorraine, thanks very much for putting this together. But I think the key thing is for us to just get across to the plumber that, protect yourself. It's like when two boxers are in the ring, the referee says protect yourself at all times. And I think that would apply to us in terms of how we use this notice. And it works within what the Consumer Protection Act says. It works within what the standards require, and it's very detailed. And it again could basically add an additional amount to your bottom lines depending on the client and how you sell it. Back to you, Lorraine.
Thank you for that, Steve. I just want to say in closing, see, the COC is a requirement in the following standards, as you know, it's 10.254, 10.10.6, and 13.52. And at the end of the day, the certificate of compliance states that the work that you've done as a licensed plumber is compliant, not what your predecessor did. And the non-compliance notice is there for you, is there to protect you. And we get the adage that, my geezer's been working like this for the past 10 years or however many years, and I've never had any problems. Well, that's fantastic for them. But the fact of the matter is that at the end of the day, you need to dot your I's and cross your T's as the licensed plumber, so that this doesn't come back to you and you don't have to claim 103,000 Rand from your insurance, or you don't have to, there's no legal dispute at the end of the day that might have you closing your business just simply because you didn't inform the client in the way they were supposed to be informed.
Thank you very much for this morning. Lorraine, you did a great job of putting this together, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.